What other things might the NSA be doing? To answer that, you have to understand what the NSA actually does and how it works.
The average person doesn't have a concept of the massive capability that is available to the National Security Agency. Forget about the idea of the guy with the earphones on listening to something. That's not what happens. The calls are being sucked up by the millions, and not just the calls, you're engaged in this data mining.
It's essentially looking for certain kinds of signals in an almost Herculean task, a much, much larger communications environment to find the things that actually have intelligence value.
Data mining, sifting through oceans of phone calls and internet traffic. That's a far cry from what President Bush described. Targeted intercepts of point-to-point Al-Qaeda communications.
Another feature of data mining is that you don't have any individualized suspicion going in. They don't say, hey, we're looking for something that Hedrick Smith is doing. They are just collecting the data, and then the analysis of the data gives rise to suspicion of individuals based on these connections.
The inside story of what the NSA has actually been up to was discovered here in San Francisco by Mark Klein, a longtime internet technician for AT&T.
In 2002, I was sitting at my workstation one day, and some email came in saying that somebody from the National Security Agency, NSA, was going to come visit for some business. This NSA representative showed up at the door. I happened to be the one who opened the door. I let him in.
He was doing a background check for a security clearance for one of our field engineers. He was going to be working at the Folsom Street office, and they were building a secure facility there.
And I heard from our manager, Don, that he's working on some new room that's being built. So people start speculating, well, what's this new room being built?
Mark Klein got suspicious when the workmen constructing the room treated it as hush-hush. So how do you know that it wasn't just some kind of newfangled AT&T thing that was going beyond what had already been established for its security purposes elsewhere?
They wouldn't need the NSA for that purpose. The odd thing about the whole room, of course, was that only this one guy who had clearance from the NSA could get in there. So that changes the whole context of what this is about.
Klein's job was to maintain AT&T's internet service for several million customers. Domestic and international traffic all mixed together.
We're talking about billions and billions of bits of data going across every second, right?
A coworker showed Klein how their internet room was directly connected to the secret NSA room through a special device called a splitter.
So what they do with a splitter is they intercept that data stream and make copies of all the data, and those copies go down on the cable to the secret room.
What this thing was is a very full-scale device to take all communication, voice and data, and send it both wherever it was supposed to go, but also shunt it off to a little listening room.
So what exactly was going on in that listening room? Klein found clues at work one day.
I came across these 3 documents, and I brought them back to my desk. And when I started looking at it, I looked at it more, and finally it dawned on me sort of all at once, and I almost fell out of my chair.
Klein eventually found detailed designs for the secret room. One of the first to see his documents was internet expert Brian Reed.
Lord, they had a lot of hardware, and they could, with the computers that they had there, they could do anything they wanted with that data. There was serious compute power available to process that wiretap data.
But then there was one thing that was odd, because I didn't recognize it. It was not part of normal day-to-day telecommunications equipment that I was familiar with. And that was a NARUS, N-A-R-U-S, NARUS STA 6400.
The NARUS STA 6400 made me sit up and take notice and realize that this was not an amateur game. And so when you see a NARUS box and all that storage space and all that compute power, you can't help but think, wow, this is some heavy-duty processing power here to really analyze the data that is siphoned off. What is going on?
The term NARIS is Latin for to know. The way our software works is it monitors all of the traffic on the internet, all of the ones and zeros that make up all of the data that you and I generate when we're looking at web pages or when corporations are sending emails back and forth. All of that information, we just sort of peer into the pipes, if you will, and look at the ones and zeros as they go by.
Peering into the pipes. What does that mean?
It's sort of analogous to a letter inside of an envelope. So you've got different layers in these things we call packets. And, the first layer that you get to peer back is the information about where the packet's coming from and where it's going to, the addresses that identify, who's communicating with who. And then once you delve into deeper parts of the packets, that's when you get into what's called the payload. And that includes the actual information that you're trying to send in the packet.
The content.
The content of the packet, that's correct.
So your customers would be communications providers like AT&T or the Bell system. Do you also sell to government agencies like the National Security Agency or the FBI?
I can't comment on any particular agencies that we may or may not have sold to because they haven't given us permission to announce their names.
Why would AT&T put a NARIS STA system in a room in its San Francisco office to which the NSA has access?
That's not a question. So, as far as I know, no one's ever proved anything. I don't know the answer to that question. I have no idea if that's ever been done or not.
You've seen the splitter. You've now got the documents. You've seen the NARIS. What is it you think is going on here?
When I saw all that, it all clicked together to me. Oh, that's what they're doing. This is a spy apparatus.
Klein decided to blow the whistle. He went to see the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Cindy Cohen is their senior attorney.
Mark Klein brought us some very good specific information about a specific facility in San Francisco that confirmed a lot of things that we thought were going on. We found a few other experts who know about the telecommunications companies and the issues that Mr. Klein was talking about, and we ran what Mr. Klein had given us past them, and we said, does this fly? Does this hold water to you? And we were told, yes, it does.
Scott Marcus, a former Federal Communications Commission expert, estimated that they set up eavesdropping rooms at 15 to 20 sites across the U.S., intercepting about 10% of all purely domestic Internet traffic. And that's just at AT&T.
We're not talking about just targeted person-to-person communications being handed over to the government. We're talking about something much bigger. We're talking about a wholesale diversion of communications to government control.
In early 2006, the Electronic Frontier Foundation filed suit against AT&T, asking the court to stop AT&T from handing over customer communications to the government.
Our case alleges that AT&T is wholesalely providing the communication records and ongoing live information to the government. That's a violation of law.
In court, AT&T urged dismissal of the case, citing state secrecy. Both AT&T and NSA refused to talk to Frontline about the case. You're aware that there's a case out here in San Francisco where people are saying that AT&T violated the law by giving the National Security Agency access to all its phone and Internet traffic. As a lawyer, is it your opinion that that actually would violate the law?
No, I don't think so if it was part of the President's command or chief power to gather information on the signals intelligence of the enemy.
Can the government pull out the communications it wants, or does it have to have access to the entire flow?
I think the government needs to have at least access to the flow. Even if it was going to enforce a warrant, it has to have access to the flow.
Under pressure from lawsuits like the AT&T case and from Congress, President Bush made a dramatic reversal last January. He put the one NSA eavesdropping program that he has acknowledged under the FISA court, but he still claims he has the power to go outside FISA anytime he wants. And the government isn't saying whether the eavesdropping at AT&T in San Francisco is covered by FISA. As far as we know, the Naris box that Mark Klein told us about is still peering into the internet traffic.